अरे यहीं पढ़ा दो। Good morning, my dear friends. I am meeting after long gap. I'm really sorry for this. In my today's video, I am going to take up a text that is the wasteland, and this text is written by none other than one of the greatest literary giants of 20th century. That is T.S. Eliot. You see, this T.S. Eliot, you know that his full name is Thomas Easton's Eliot. All right, he is very famous poet. So he is called T.S. Eliot, right? T.S. Eliot, uh, and he is one of the greatest innovator of 20th century. Certain trends he has developed. उन्होंने कुछ नई चीजें लाया था और मैं आज उनके टेक्स्ट पढ़ाने जा रहा हूं। और एक चीज मैं बता दूं आपको कि लिटरेचर में यदि आपने टेक्स्ट पढ़ लिया तो बहुत बड़ी बात है। सो टेक्स्ट स्टडी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, टेक्सचुअल स्टडी, राइट। तो जैसे कि जब हम टी.एस. एलियट पढ़ते हैं तो हमें देखना चाहिए कि दिस बुक, एज आई टोल्ड यू, द वेस्टलैंड, दिस हैज टोटल 423 लाइन, and this is a typical modernist text, modernist in certain sense. पहला तो इसका स्ट्रक्चर ही मॉडर्निस्ट है। और एक चीज ध्यान रखिएगा, यह टेक्स्ट पब्लिश हुआ था 1922 में। उसी समय आपका आया था यूलिसिस। इट वाज आल्सो पब्लिश्ड बाय जेम्स जॉयस। जैकोब्स रोम, जैकोब्स रोम, जैकोब्स रोम was also published. उसी समय जैकोब्स रोम पब्लिश्ड हुआ। तो टी.एस. एलियट ने सर्टेन थियरी दिया था। उनका एक थियरी था ट्रेडिशन एंड इंडिविजुअल टैलेंट। सो दिस ट्रेडिशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। All right, if you read this text, then you find that here T.S. Eliot's theory, and the theory is his very important essay. It is called Tradition and जो इच्छा लेते हैं, पानी पानी वाटर। Tradition and individual talent. This is very important. This essay was published in 1915. This is called T.S. Eliot's very famous essay. This is called Tradition and Individual Talent, right? तो T.S. Eliot ने जब essay लिखा तो उसमें उन्होंने दिखाया कि ट्रेडिशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। According to T.S. Eliot, tradition is a way of life, right? His other essays are, you read metaphysical poem where he says that dissociation of sensibility, and that's how he says that John Donne is very famous poet. His other essays is Hamlet and his problem, where he says that Hamlet is an artistic failure text. This is what he says. However, T.S. Eliot again says that Macbeth is artistic success. So these are certain points. But if you read this text, you find that this text has a beautiful portrayal of what we call tradition and individual talent. According to John Keats, according to T.S. Eliot, tradition is very important. For him, tradition is a way of life. And that's what he says, that tradition is a way of life. Tradition means that what we in fact follow, that there are that our forefathers, our myth, our history, right? These phenomena have a great repercussion in our life, and that's how, if you read this essay called The Wasteland, you find that in this essay T.S. Eliot has taken title. Title itself is very important, right? तो टाइटल है ये, उनका टाइटल ही जो आया है, ये स्वयं आप टाइटल में देखेंगे कि if you see the title of the text, you स्वयं you find title that title of the text is that he says certain thing, and one of the thing is that here he says that tradition and individual talent. You must read this essay, इसको पढ़िएगा, published in 1915. There is a site called Sodh Ganga, and in this site you find that there are essays like T.S. Eliot's essay that says that this text is like this, that what T.S. Eliot says, that tradition is nothing but a way of life. How tradition is a way of life, right? So if you read this text, you find that here T.S. Eliot has one technique that he has adopted. This is called myth, mythical method, and contemporaneity. About contemporary society. So T.S. Eliot said that April is the cruelest month, breeding. Very interesting essay. He says that April is the cruelest month, breeding. Now this April month itself is very important. The burial of the dead. Now, जो इस poem को आप पढ़ेंगे, you find that this poem is about the disillusionment of the post-World War. जो वर्ल्ड वार हुआ उसके बाद कैसे हमारे पूरे कल्चर पे एक डिसइल्यूजन आ गया, नो, पोस्ट वर्ल्ड वार पर्सपेक्टिव. दिस लेसन आल्सो टेल्स अबाउट द पोस्ट वर्ल्ड war perspective, no, how a lot of post, so this post world war perspective, what happened in the post world war. वर्ल्ड वार हुआ तो उसके बाद क्या हुआ, you know, the entire civilization was shattered and that land became the waste, so fertility was needed, you know, the wasteland जब हो गया, land खराब हो गया तो उसको रीजनरेशन चाहिए. this regeneration in terms of several factors, psychological, moral, ethical, epistemological, religious, sexual also. So that is the productivity, this fertility. और इसके लिए उन्होंने जो है एक किताब लिया, फ्रॉम रिचुअल टू रोमांस, फ्रॉम रिचुअल टू रोमांस बाय जेसी वेस्टन. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट किताब है, राइट, फ्रॉम रिचुअल टू रोमांस, वेर यू फाइंड फिशर किंग, वेर यू फाइंड फिशर किंग, you know, that how there is a fisher king. So this is very important. So if you read this text, you find April is the cruelest month, breeding. April. Now this April month itself is very symbolic. April was cruelest when So this April is the reversal of Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. In the Canterbury Tales, Geoffrey Chaucer says that when that April with its sore सूटे, राइट, उसमें कहता है कि अप्रैल का महीना था जब बहुत अच्छा सोर्स आया था। तो एक समय था जब अप्रैल का महीना बहुत अच्छा था। एंड दिस इज रिवर्सल ऑफ ओल्ड ऑर्डर, रिवर्सल ऑफ ओल्ड ऑर्डर, ओल्ड वैल्यू। जो ओल्ड ऑर्डर आया ओल्ड वैल्यू आया, तो उसका दिखाया टीएस एलियट ने कि कैसे एक समय था व्हेन अप्रैल वाज द क्रूलेस्ट मंथ, जब अप्रैल महीना बहुत ही अच्छा था, राइट, अप्रैल वाज द क्रूलेस्ट मंथ। आज अप्रैल खराब हो गया, एक समय था जब अप्रैल बहुत अच्छा था, चौसर के समय में। जेफरी चौसर का जो द कंटेरबरी टेल्स है, द कंटेरबरी टेल्स, दिस टेक्स्ट स्टार्ट्स विथ अप्रैल मंथ। इसमें कहते हैं अप्रैल इज द क्रूलेस्ट मंथ ब्रीडिंग, lilacs out of the dead land mixing, memory and desire stirring, dull roots with spring rain. So you see that if you read this poem, you find the imagery, that how there is a sordid imagery. The imagery itself is very sordid. Winter kept us warm covering, earth in forgetful snow feeding, a little life with dried tubers, a little life with dried tubers, means that there is a sordidity everywhere. This sordid, the image itself is a very sordid, right, very harsh, very painful image, very painful image, right. So April is the cruelest month breeding, something like this, right. A little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us coming over the Starnberg Greece. With a shower of rain, we stopped in the Kolnot and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin Garkin, Russian, Stemmen, Alliteration, etc. like this. तो जब यहां तक आप पढ़ेंगे तो आप पाएंगे कि कैसे टीएस एलियट ने, खास तौर से उस इमेजरी को देखिएगा, यू नो, एंड ड्रैंक कॉफी एंड टॉक्ड फॉर एन आवर, यू नो, दैट दिस अगेन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, that drank coffee and T.S. Eliot says that you know, drank coffee and this is very important, then and drank coffee and talked for an hour. This coffee image, coffee, you know, this coffee image is also very important. T.S. Eliot has says somewhere else that he says that I have measured my life with coffee spoon. That is another imagery that T.S. Eliot says, that I have measured my life with coffee spoon, right? Then he says that, and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bin Garkin, Russian, Stamnas, Litini. This is a different language, but and I was frightened. He said, Mary, hold on tight, and down we went in the mountain. I read much of the night and go south in the winter. So this first stanza itself has a mythical method, and mythical method has been used in the context of Chaucer. That Geoffrey Chaucer has used this context. तो चौसर का रिवर्सल हुआ है, and that you find here most of the reversal of the old traditional value. एक समय था जब सब कुछ अच्छा था, आज वही समय खराब हो गया है. This is the focal point of T.S. Eliot. Then he says that I read much of the night and go south in the winter. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only. तो मैं थोड़ा सा आपको इस टेक्स्ट को पढ़ाने का मेरा मेन एक मकसद यही है कि इसमें कुछ लाइन को आप याद कर लीजिएगा. इफ यू वांट टू अपीयर फॉर एनी बेसिकली फॉर एलटी मेंस और एनी अदर एग्जामिनेशन, जस्ट नो आपको इतना जानना चाहिए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपको इतना ध्यान रखना चाहिए. फॉर व्हाट आर द रूट्स दैट क्लच, व्हाट ब्रांचेज ग्रो, राइट, व्हाट ब्रांचेज ग्रो. And then he says that what branches glow, right? And then again you find that son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken image. There's another line very important, a heap of another imagery, a heap of broken image, where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water, right? Then there is no cricket, no shelter, no. So most of the negativity, this is called negative aspect, right? Negativity. There is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning standing behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. And then T.S. Eliot says, this is very important, that I will show you fear in a handful of dust, which means that this means handful of dust means illusion. Dust itself is a symbol of illusion, and that is why you know that if you read T.S. Eliot very clearly, you find that there is a precise imagery. There is a precise imagery. Very clear and precise imagery, and this is a form of imagism. This is a form of imagism, जिसको हम बोलते हैं प्रतीकवाद, right? How there is a imagism, that your shadow at morning stand behind you. I will see you fear in a handful of dust. Now this is so a heap of broken images. I will show you fear of handful of dust. These images are very important, right? तो इसको जरूर ध्यान रखिएगा. This is very important. These images are very important. इसके बाद ध्यान रखिएगा, that is I want to say that I will show you fear of dust, and then you gave me hyacinth first year ago. Now फिर आप देखेंगे कि जब शब्दों को आप जाएंगे to find that that words like fresh wind, der Herman Jew, main Irish kind, something like this. आगे जब आप बढ़ेंगे तो you find that you gave hyacinth first a year ago. They called me the hyacinth girl. When you came back late from. तो इसके स्टोरी पे मत जाइएगा, उसको तो पढ़ना ही है, पहले इसकी इमेजरी को देखिएगा. Looking into the heart of light, the silence. Madame Sostos' famous clairvoyance, had a bad cold nevertheless, is known to be the. Then T.S. Eliot says that is known to be the wisest woman in Europe, with a wicked pack of cards. Now that is another imagery. You see, just I want to show you imagery, that how there is sordid imagery. This imagery itself is very symbolical, right? So what T.S. Eliot says? T.S. Eliot says that imagery itself is very important. That he says that had a bad cold, nevertheless known to be the wisest woman in Europe, with a wicked pack of cards. Wicked pack of cards, right? That is a card. Card is a symbol of modern illusion, game or gambling. Gambling, right? The lady of situation. Here is Baldona, the lady of the rocks, and then here is the one-eyed merchant, another symbol. And this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back. I do not find. The hanged man, feared death by water. I see crowds of people walking around in a ring. Thank you if you see dear Mr. You put alone. Tell her I bring the horoscope myself. One must be so careful these days. Feared death by water. So that is symbolical. Feared death by water. So that is how water is also reversed. तो इसको हम शुरुआती में आपको पढ़ने का तरीका बता दिया, और इसके द्वारा मैं आपको ये बताना चाहता हूं कि हाउ दिस पोएम इज टिपिकल मॉडर्निस्ट पोएट, हाउ यू फाइंड अ सेंस ऑफ मॉडर्निटी, हाउ देयर इज अ कंप्लीटली रिवर्सल ऑफ ओल्ड वैल्यू। और इसको पढ़ते समय आप इसके इमेजेस को ध्यान दीजिएगा। आई एम श्योर यू विल बी एबल टू अटेम्प्ट द आंसर। तो आज मैं इतना पढ़ा दे रहा हूं, नेक्स्ट क्लास में मैं इसको आगे पढ़ाऊंगा। थैंक यू।